This is our last parallel session before we go
Hello.
back
Yeah.
to the main room.
Yes. The last one we have is systems thinking in economics education. System thinking in economics education. Sorry, by Henry von Dongen. So,
Henny?
um,
Yeah.
oh, Henny.
Okay. Yes.
Sorry.
Thank you, Henny.
Okay, then I'm going to do the slideshow from the beginning. Okay, should be like this. It's mostly a reflection, and it will be clear when I'm doing the presentation why I don't have many examples from a classroom. A little bit about me. I have a master's in economics, teaching economics and business economics. Have experience as an economic teacher, both, and an economics textbook author. My first encounter with system thinking was the work of Donella Meadows and the Club of Rome in general. And I started to do some applications of systems thinking in articles and lesson materials that I've developed over the course of the years. And mostly recently, I've been part in the regenerative economics textbook project where I do a review and am helping to increase the system's content. I'm trained in the DSRP method and soft system thinking, and I'm self-educated in system dynamics. And I'm also a co-author of the position paper Reimagining Economics: Five Transformative Shifts for Secondary Schools. One of those shifts we advise is the system thinking. And that's not easy since economics education is slow to change. And there are limited opportunities for trying out thinking in classroom settings. That's specifically for me because the last 10 years I've been moving a lot from one country to another. Now I'm in Sweden. That's why I thought it was nice to have the Northern Lights at my back. Um, and I'm not good enough in Swedish to be able to be an economics teacher here. So that's another limitation for me. Um, so what we did notice, now we have included some of the system thinking ideas in regenerative economics, that we get feedback from teachers, mostly in IB programs, that try out these materials and also include system thinking in their in the application of the materials. So there is some movement there, but it's slow. And Peter Sanger said in the first presentation that many countries work with a very standardized curriculum, and those standardized curricula often allow for little room of experimenting with other approaches to teaching the subject. And it pretty much applies to my country of origin, that's the Netherlands, where I've been mostly focused on. So, okay, but then again, you can have a lot, you can learn a lot even when you are not in the classroom. So what I want to share with you is actually three caveats that I have encountered over the years that I've been applying system thinking in general to economics education. And this is just a summation of what I would like to talk about. And I will go over them one by one, so I won't introduce them here. Okay. So the first thing is that information is not the same thing as knowledge. So understanding is constructed, reconstructed, and not transmitted. And one of the things I see is that when you include diagrams like you see on the right-hand side, which is not really like a feedback loop or a systems diagram, but it shows many causal relationships between any demand factor and the demand for a certain product. And one of the things, if you show one of these, it doesn't really differ much from the list that I put on the left side of the sheet, of the slide. The risk is that students will only see a group of nodes and arrows, and they will not really understand the meaning behind those arrows and behind the pluses and minuses. So if you want students to understand a diagram like this and the causal relationships that it shows, you really have to go into the relationships and discuss the direction of the relationship, what kind of relationship it is, and also the magnitude of the relationship. Because one of the things that are here is the price of a substitute to the product X we are looking at. And how, to what extent would a change in that price change the demand for product X? And that will probably depend on the product X and the substitute. It's not that we can say we can generalize across that. So I think if you want to use these types of diagrams, and this also includes feedback loop diagrams, you really have to go into the relationships and talk with students about the meaning of those arrows, and I think especially if you're thinking of modeling it, the magnitude of those arrows. So this is one thing I thought I wanted to stress. Information and knowledge are not identical because knowledge is in fact structured information. Information organized in a way that it can be easier retrieved and applied. So if we can use systems thinking to structure information, then it will contribute to near and far transfer. And information alone is unstructured. So if we only offer students a diagram without any further exploration, then the risk is that they will only remember root. How do you say that in English? You just remember you learn the diagram so that you can replicate it later on when you're tested on it. So students must actively structure the information themselves, and they mustn't reproduce what a teacher has thought of. That's what I believe. In some cases, you might see that there's misconceptions and you want to correct them, but I think that's pretty much the strength of letting them constructing their own knowledge. And I think this caveat, as I called it, is something that is important beyond economics, and it applies to the whole the school broadly. So every other subject will benefit from understanding that information and knowledge are not the same, and that we cannot just show students diagrams. And the risk in economics is that we do share diagrams to explain certain reasoning, but since we are a social science, it's not always possible to quantify the reasoning, and therefore it's even more important that we discuss what we are reasoning about. The other caveat that I wanted to share with you is that real-world outcomes are not real-world structure. So even if we are able to make a model that shows the outcomes that we see in general in the economy, it doesn't mean that we understand the structure of the economy. And that is a risk when there is emergent behavior that we do not fully understand. And the only way we can then explain it is to see it as an external shock. Whereas it might very well come from inside of the economy. And nowadays, in mainstream economics, it's very common to base a model on historical data. So then we might be able to reproduce that, but that doesn't mean that we will be able to predict the future, because we do not understand the real world structure. We only use those outcomes and saw those as leading for the workings of the economy. If you want to use a model in economics, what kind of model are you going to use? And which model are you going to use? I for myself, I like the price mechanism, the supply and demand a lot. But there is a lot to be said about the reality value of those models. So are we going to align with classical economic assumptions? Are we going to leave out important structural elements? What are we going to do? And I have two examples that I want to use to illustrate this a little bit more. The first example is an example I took from Sistem and the number of the model is Z504. And it's a model that is originally built in Vensim. I also built it in Vensim, but I now use the Insight Maker model so I can share it online. And it is a model that simulates the price mechanism. And I build it so that if it's okay, you should now be able to follow me. And you are also seeing the Insight Maker website. Is that so? Does everybody see the Insight Maker? Okay, lovely. Then I'm going to simulate it. And lo and behold, it takes a little bit of time. It's not a very fast simulator. But lo and behold, it starts to trend towards an equilibrium price, which we economists love. We love equilibrium. So, are we going to use this model to teach students about the working of the supply and demand and the price mechanism? Well, I am not too enthusiastic because it only shows the supply part very extensively. So this is kind of interesting. You can see how the price is decided upon from a supplier standpoint. So with all the costs, and there's somewhere also a profit margin or a profit goal in this model. But if I look at the demand side, which is this part of the model, then I see, hey, there's this demand, and that's the set value. So this particular model, and it was really nice to build it, but this particular model lacks reality, because demand isn't a set number. Demand is very much dependent on behavior. So you could use a model like this, but then you would really have to go into the assumptions that are made to build this model. And I didn't speak to the writer of the Sistem series. So I don't know if he intended to make a model that would tend towards an equilibrium, or that he just wanted to explain more about the supply side, I don't know. But if this is a model that is mostly built to tend towards an equilibrium, then it's useless in an economic course, because it leaves out the whole demand side of the price mechanism. So that's one of my examples. So I go back to my PowerPoint. Yeah. The other, oh wait up, I incidentally typed. Oh no, I typed on the model again. So yeah, this is better. The other one is a supply and demand feedback loop. Again, the price mechanism. I chose this one because the left feedback loop diagram has been used in research in Stockholm, where they use this instead of or next to a regular supply and demand. So they had some students that had explanation about the supply and demand model with the supply and demand graph. And other students were offered this feedback loop diagram. Now, the results were that students had a much easier time of understanding the price mechanism through this model, this feedback loop diagram, than they had when they were introduced to the concept through a graph with a demand line and a supply line. The thing, this is a great feedback loop. I added the double stripes to show a delay, but I also tried to simulate this. And what I then came upon was that you have to, what are you going to prioritize when both demand and supply also influence the price? So you can see this here. Demand and supply and the price have a plus relationship. So demand goes up, price goes up. And supply and price have a negative relationship, which means that when supply goes up, price goes down. And then I came to the conclusion that it actually lacks a demand supply ratio, which also explains something about the power dynamics in the market. Because it's only when demand is higher than supply that it will have a increasing effect on the price. And when demand is lower than supply, in my ratio, demand is the what's it again, numerator, and supply as the denominator, then it means that if the demand is lower, then it means that the price will likely go down. So this shows a little bit of the power dynamics going on in the market. And that's also one of the things that we stress in the regenerative economics textbook. So these are two examples that I wanted to share to show that we need to close the gap between the structure of the diagram and the real world structure. So something in general about these models, and now I have to, sometimes I can see you, so, but then the problem is that it's sometimes in the way of what I can see on my own screen. So I have to move you around. So some reflection on the use of these models, that is, the examples, I think, underline the importance of being to use models as explicit abstractions. So I think that it depends on whether you want to use a model to explain an economic concept, or if you want a model to use a model to teach students how to build a model. And if you work on model construction, then it's really important to be transparent about the assumptions you make and the frame you choose for the model. So what's inside the system that you are exploring and what is outside the system that you are exploring. With my first example of the Z504 system zoo model, it was there was more attention to the supply side, and that is very interesting. But then be clear that you only use this model to explore more about the supply side. And even though I would prefer to have models that are based in reality, but it is difficult, especially when you want to build simple models, you have to simplify. It's actually what Stephen just said in his presentation, that he chose for a certain perspective and that he left the, I thought was the RNA that he left out. And that is a choice you have to make as a teacher. But you have to be aware that students do not know what you are leaving out, and they may take it for a general truth. So that is something you really have to be aware of, I think. And the most important thing that I think is for economics is to understand the connections, the relationships. And here in this, I brought back the one of the first diagram that I showed. Here it's all cause and effect relationships, but those are not the only relationships we have in economics. And I think it's important that students understand what kind of connections there are that are of importance to understand the structure of the economy. Then, last but not least, that an economic system is not the same as system dynamics. I know that there are researchers who have tried to capture like macroeconomics in a system dynamic model, but I think it's important to realize that economics is a social science. I know many economics would like to think that it's like mathematics, but it's not. It's a social science, and that is because economic systems consist of people, and people are not rational. And one of the assumptions of the economic theory is that people are rational beings, but they're not. And because of that, you need to work with these behavioral aspects. And one person who has really opened that ideas up, for me at least, is a Dongen farmer with his Making Sense of Chaos book, which is about complexity economics. And he explains a lot about how network models can help you understand the relationship between agents, for example, in a banking system. And that would help you to understand the financial crisis of 2007, 2008 better. And agent-based models can help you better model the behavior of agents and some simple heuristics that they apply to their the choices they make. And system dynamics help you understand how the stocks in the economy flow between the stocks of the different agents. So there are stocks in the economy, but they are related to agents, and you can use system dynamics to make these flows more visible. And not only between the economy, within the economy, because we see the economy as a embedded system. So if you take this approach, you can also embed the system in the environment and see what the economy does to the environment as a broader system. I refer here a little bit to complexity economics. I think it's an upcoming discipline. I know that often curricula are shaped by the current mainstream of economics, but I would really love to integrate economics more, systems thinking more in economics. So we prepare students to participate in building this field of complexity economics, because I think that it gives us a much better chance in the future than the current economic models. Yeah. And I would love to see ways to be able to combine these different approaches and maybe as separate models or maybe in a larger model. So we could use that in economics education. But to be able um, to have students understand all these different approaches to system thinking that I just mentioned: network modeling, agent-based modeling, system dynamics, and then of course also soft systems, soft system thinking with the qualitative feedback loops. Students need to have a basic understanding of what a system is, what a relationship is, what a perspective is, how you frame a system, like what do you include, what do you leave out, so what is it and what is it not. And I think that development of those basic metacognitive skills is also very important, and that can be done across the curriculum. Those are skills that can be applied to any type of system thinking approach, and I think that understanding the complexity of economics or any system requires, and it's what I call craftsmanship in thinking. So yeah, that was the end of my presentation. I hope that I stopped sharing, and I hope that I didn't go over my time.
Well, we have 1 minute.
Oh wow, sorry about that.
Nope. Any questions? Any questions? Economics is another big place that it's a complex set of ideas, and we need help. Those of us who are not economists need help just getting a handle on how to understand it. So, any questions? Well, maybe not. Thank you, Henny, for your presentation. I thought it was quite
You're welcome.
stimulating. We need to go back to the main room for our final roundtable with IB school teachers and curriculum specialists. Thank you very much for
Yeah.
coming to this
Thank
session.
you for listening to me. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
you.